Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, thanks for continuing to join us. So at this time, and apologize that we're just a couple minutes late. At this time, we're fortunate to have Mark Wilson. Mark Wilson and a dedicated team of individuals has been working, have been concerned about the amount of accidents, the amount of deaths, the amount of closures on northern highways for over a decade. And they've been working on a plan called 2+1 road design. And this plan is that there would be 3 lanes of traffic, and every, I think, 5 kilometers, and Mark will walk us through that, that we switch so that you'll have 2 lanes plus 1, and then switch, and you'll have 2 lanes in the other direction plus 1. And he's toured several countries in the Scandinavian area that have studied this and brought back, and the dedicated team has now finally got a pilot project with the Ministry of Transportation to make our life a little bit more enjoyable in Northern Ontario. So it is my honor to now allow Mark Wilson to chat with us. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mac. Appreciate the introduction, and you're very right. Our committee, GEMS, Going the Extra Mile for Safety, is a subcommittee of the Timiskaming Shores and Area Chamber of Commerce, and we have a number of members, and we have an executive which consists of FONOM President Danny Whalen, who's done some fabulous work on this, Mayor Carmen Kidd of Timiskaming Shores, and Helen Culhane with the Timiskaming Shores and Area Chamber, and we've been working for quite a number of years on this project, and my role with the GEMS committee is to collect information on 2+1 roads and report to various groups, and so this presentation is a summary of some of the information that I've collected, as Max said, from around the world, really. 2+1 roads are used successfully around the world, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So as I mentioned, our committee is part of the Timiskaming Shores Area Chamber of Commerce, and all along, since about 2015, we've been advocating for a 2+1 pilot project, and I'll explain that as we move through the session here. So I took a couple of fact-finding trips, 2 to Sweden, 1 to Ireland, and met with a number of experts and researchers and officials regarding 2+1 roads, toured a number of construction sites, and experienced driving on over 2,500 kilometers of 2+1 roads in Sweden in both summer and winter, and I'll explain that a little bit as we go. And just very quickly, I want to recognize the support that the Swedes provided for me. Here are just some pictures of some people I met, and the gentleman on the right is a world-renowned road safety expert, and was a big part of the development of what we call Vision Zero, and I'll talk a little bit about that very briefly in a moment. But and on the left is a crew at one of the construction sites I visited, and I'll show you one picture from that later on. I also visited researchers at VTI. VTI is a national road safety research facility at one of the universities in Sweden. And I met with Dr. Anna Vataby here, who's done a tremendous amount of work on 2+1 roads. And on the left is their crash lab, which I had the opportunity to tour. And in Ireland, I met with a gentleman on the right is their head of road safety in Ireland, and the other members on the left are a number of engineers and road maintenance experts who spent the day with me as they toured me around on their 2+1 roads. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Vision Zero very briefly, just this one slide. Vision Zero, or safe systems, it's a term you may have heard before. But it was established, Vision Zero was established in Sweden in the 1990s. The Netherlands has a similar program. Australia has a similar program. They have somewhat different names, but they're based on a safe systems approach, meaning that we have to recognize that humans make mistakes. And when a human fails on the road system should not. That's really what the essence of safe systems is all about. And that no one should die on our roads. There are solutions to this. We need to put more responsibility on road designers and less on road users. It is a shared responsibility. There's no denying that, but there needs to be more responsibility on how we design our roads. And it all comes down to the reduction of kinetic energy of crashes to prevent fatal and serious injury crashes. Small, low energy crashes are okay. It's the serious ones that we need to stop. We need to make the roads self-explaining to make drivers better. And for Sweden, it's been a very successful outcome. They have the safest roads in the world, and they're still making gains. So this is really where the 2+1 comes from. It meets all of these requirements that you see in front of you here. So let's have a look at a 2+1 road and where it developed in Sweden. Excuse me. This photo shows a road in Sweden before conversion to a 2+1. It's 13 meters wide, and there's 2 travel lanes in the center. They're 3.5 meters wide, and they have 3-meter shoulders. So those shoulders are used for people to pull off and recover if they do err. But these roads had very high fatality and serious collision rates. So Sweden set out to change this. But they also didn't have a lot of money to do major 4-lane twinning motorways. So they developed a system, excuse me, of 2+1 roads. And so when you look at this picture, think about that, and now look at this picture. So that's the same location after conversion to 2+1 roads. So you can see here that on the right, there are 2 travel lanes in the same direction. They're both 3.25 meters wide. And the single lane on the far side is a 3.5 meter lane. They're separated by a 1.5 meter median reserve, which contains a crash rated physical barrier. And I'll talk about those in a moment. In this case, it's a wire rope barrier. And you'll notice that the shoulders have been drastically reduced. And this has not been a major problem in Sweden. And I will talk about that a little bit later. So the one advantage of this system is, I'll just go back a slide. There's the 2+1, but where the road or the geography or the terrain is difficult, it can be modified to a 1+1. So we still have the median barrier. We have a slightly wider median in this case, but it's only a single lane on either side. And you'll notice here, they're going through a pretty significant rock cut. And that's the beauty of this system, is that it can be adapted to the environment that it's going through. And, you know, we see lots of this in Northern Ontario, and this is from this picture is taken in central Sweden from my dash cam. So the 2+1 profile alternates on a continuous basis every 1 to 3, 2 to 5 kilometers. It really varies again on the terrain, which allows the direction of traffic, allows overtaking of slower vehicles. And the goal generally on the Swedish system is to allow for passing opportunities about 40% of your trip. So in some cases, as I mentioned earlier, where it's 1+1, it is affected by the terrain of the area. So volume capacities, they're built on roads that are between 2,000 and around 18,000 or 20,000 average annual daily traffic. So for Northern Ontario, that's all of 17 and 11. There are some areas that are on the high end of that. And so the 2+1 may not be suitable for that, but it's certainly suitable for the vast majority of highways 11 and 17 in Northern Ontario in those volumes. So here's a picture of a shot from my winter trip, and it shows you, in this case, the single lane side. Speeds and performance has also been studied in various reports, and I've included those in my report. If anybody wants my report, I can certainly send it to you. But generally, there's been a slight increase over the 13-meter roads, the original roads, but most of those increases are in the 2-lane section. So it's something we experience here too, where there's a passing lane. The speeds tend to increase because people are passing other vehicles. And the posted speeds on the Swedish 2+1 roads are usually, in most cases, 100 kilometers an hour. And they are effective for vehicle volume up to 1,500 vehicles per hour. So we're well within those ranges in Northern Ontario. So just wanted to talk a little bit about barrier types, and there are numerous types of barriers that are being used in Sweden. And this picture is one I took in southern Sweden of a wire rope barrier, cable barrier, in the 1.5 meter reserve. And this one is a version that crosses from side to side on the posts, and also notice the rumble strips. So those white lines on either side of the median reserve are rumble strips, and they are put on most of the 2+1 roads just to warn drivers if they're getting too close to the edge. Here is another wire rope barrier. This is an inline style where the cable sits in the middle of the post. And if there's a contact with these, the posts bend and the cable actually contains the vehicle. These wire rope barriers are designed using various standards. So in Europe, they use a standard called EN 1317, which is designed to ensure that the barriers are designed for the vehicles that they're trying to contain. And normally, the maximum is a 10,000 kilogram sort of single unit truck. They're not designed for full transport trucks. However, there have been experiences where the trucks, because they hit it at a very low angle, are deflected, and actually there can be some effectiveness, positive effectiveness with larger trucks. So here's another cable, sorry, not cable, a semi-rigid steel barrier. So this is the new model that is starting to appear, and in fact, Sweden has gone to these exclusively as they're building new 2+1 roads. So they're a semi-rigid steel barrier, and as you can see here, the post sits in the middle in a sleeve. So these have been very effective, and they are a little bit better from a maintenance perspective, particularly in northern Sweden, where the snowplows are operating. A slight touch on these is much less severe than on the cable barriers that would require some repairs. So they're finding that these are easier to install and they are less maintenance. Here's a shot just to give you some other perspective from Ireland. This is again a cable barrier, and you'll notice a slightly wider shoulders in Ireland. So theirs were built primarily on a 14-meter platform. And in Ireland, some of their 2+1 roads outgrew the traffic volume. So they've turned some of their 2+1 into what they call 2+2. So it's really the same profile, except now there's 2 lanes on either side. And they've been very effective. In a sense, it's becoming something like a motorway. So I just want to talk a little bit about the profile and how it might look in a Canadian perspective. You know, some of the discussions that we've been having about it are that it would have a wider shoulder. And so here's a picture from Finland that also have 2+1 roads. All of the Nordic countries have various levels of 2+1 roads. And so you'll notice the wider shoulder here. And this is perhaps a little bit more what a Canadian model might look like. And here's an Australian picture. So you'll notice, again, they work both ways, even if you are driving on the other side of the road, much like Ireland. But you'll notice the wide shoulder here as well. So that's a 3-meter shoulder that they provided on both sides, cable barrier in this case. And Australia has built a tremendous amount of 2+1 roads over the last number of years. They've recognized that the cable barrier drastically reduces head-on crashes and reduces kinetic energy and saves lives. And the numbers are very, very clear on that. So one of the other aspects of 2+1 roads is that they're much, the cost to build them is much lower because you're building it on an existing platform. So here's one example where we have an intersection, and intersections on any roads are always areas where we have more crashes. But the advantage here, of course, is that in those volumes that I talked about earlier, this type of an intersection is actually very cost effective and still relatively safe. So this is really not much different than an intersection we would have on a normal road. And all we're doing is ending the barrier for a short period of time through the intersection and then starting it up again on the other side. So vastly reducing the need for grade separated overpasses, those types of things that are hugely expensive. So this is just one shot I wanted to show you of a site that I visited with the representatives from Sweden. On the left, you'll see sorry, in the center, I guess you'll see the rumble strips and the thin white line, and the thin white line is where the barrier is going to go. So this project obviously wasn't completed when I visited it, but they put in that semi-rigid steel barrier that I showed you earlier. And so this is functioning now, and it has been working well for them in follow-up discussions I've had with them. How do you do road maintenance on 2+1 roads? Well, in Sweden, they use a lot of TMAs, truck-mounted attenuators, as you see here. They do most of the repairs from the 2-lane side, if necessary. However, the road can be closed and traffic rerouted from time to time as well, if necessary to close the single-lane side. Trucking, I met with trucking industry officials when I was in Sweden as well, and they support the 2+1 roads. They, their drivers are safer. They have fewer drivers, other vehicles, automobiles, etc., that they simply don't pass inappropriately. They don't cut off trucks. You can't pass inappropriately. And that is one of the huge advantages of this, not only for trucking, but for everybody. It becomes a self-explaining road, and you're staying there in that lane until you get your opportunity, which won't be too far up the road. But this is one of the things that the trucking industry has found that they like about it. I also went in 2018, I was there in June of 2018 and also in the winter of 2018 on another trip. And a gentleman on the right is with a road safety barrier association, and he toured me at a site to where they train on the installation and maintenance of these barriers. And the group on the left is a group that I toured with right up near the Arctic Circle, actually. So they have 2+1 roads right up there. Of course, Sweden being a very northern country. And it was very dark when I was there in December. I was there December 10th to the 15th, I guess it was, yeah. So here's some of the maintenance in the winter. This is a wide wing plow that's used in Sweden. And they also will tandem plow, so they'll use 2 trucks, for example. But here you can see that we have the barrier in the middle. We have very effective roadside safety hardware as well, where we have the steel barriers protecting the rock cuts. You see a lot of that in Sweden as well. And you'll notice the signs on both sides of the road telling the driver that that we're just starting a two-lane passing lane. So just, to kind of wrap up on the presentation here, I want to look at some of the results. And here are some results from a pretty extensive report that was done back in 2009, and there have been some other reports as well. But when they compared the existing 13-meter roads that they had and studied the difference after about 10 years, they saw that some of the reduction in fatalities on these rural highways were in the 70 to 80 range, and also the reduction in motorcycle fatalities down significantly as well. So when we eliminate the possibility of head-on crashes, we really reduce fatalities. This is also an interesting slide, a 2015 slide, from a 2015 study done by one of the researchers that I visited when I was in Sweden, and it looked at the relative risk of dying and on various road types, and the study had more road types in it, and I've pulled out the sort of three main road types that we're interested in. And so if you looked at a divided highway, a motorway, a twinned highway, whatever you want to call it, your relative risk of dying is 1. If you're on a two-lane 90-kilometer road, which is like most of our Northern Ontario highways, your relative risk of dying is over 5. And you'll notice the 2+1 in their studies from Sweden was very similar to divided highways, and in this case, slightly less. And so these numbers also are identified in Australian numbers, Irish numbers, and other countries as well, where the benefit, the safety benefit of these 2+1 is exceptional. And when you consider the cost, you can build a 2+1, depending on how you do it, at maybe a quarter to a third the cost of a twinned highway. And that's not even accounting for the vast reduction in environmental impact as well. So just to summarize some of the key points of 2+1 roads there, as I just mentioned, safety results equivalent to divided highways. They're low cost, built on existing platforms. We don't need to push another road through the bush, so less environmental impact. The design is flexible to the terrain. So I showed you the picture of the 1+1, and it was, that really helps reduce the cost as well, but maintains the safety aspect. And then there's expansion opportunities. So if volumes increase, much like the Irish did, then that same road platform can be expanded to 2+2. We continue to have the median barrier. So in a sense, we have a divided highway. And that can be used in places where there's higher volumes. And through our region here, through the Temiskaming region, we're starting to see some significant volumes between Temiskaming Shores and Englehart, Kirkland Lake, that kind of thing. There's a lot of traffic on those areas, and I think there's certainly other parts of Northern Ontario highways that are seeing a lot of traffic too, along 17, for example. So they're very effective on rural road networks, and they continue to be built around the world. So they have a lot of positives. I just want to mention this as we're getting closer to the end here. This is a picture from Quebec, Route 50. I visited with the Ministry of Transportation in Quebec last summer. And this site, they opened this site, and it is primarily a 1+1 profile, as you can see here. And they've used a very similar type of design to the Swedish design. And this, in this particular location, this is a temporary measure to reduce fatalities on a piece of road that they're going to be twinning. So this section, it's about a 6-kilometer section where they have volumes up over 20,000 vehicles a day, and they're very just having fatalities every year. So they said, well, look, we're not ready to build the twinned highway yet, so we're going to build this. And it's been tremendously successful. They've had no fatalities on it. It's been in place for over a year and a half now. They've had some hits on it, and they've been able to manage that. So this really shows the effectiveness of this type of model. So just some road safety stats. You can have a look at this. Sweden 1.8. These are from different years because people or some countries report them sooner than others. That Northern Ontario number, if you look at 2018, it's around 8.5, but it's always significantly higher than our Southern Ontario numbers. And this is what we want to address. So I think all of you are probably aware that the Ontario government is committed to a 2+1 pilot project. There's been a working group established for selection criteria, and I sat on that working group. Our work is over, and we've got the final 2 sites identified, and the ministry is still waiting to identify which of those 2 sites will be the one for the pilot, and they're both north of North Bay, between North Bay and Temagami. So just to finish up, I have a couple of little video clips here I want to show. Pictures are one thing, but videos kind of give you a better idea of 2+1 roads. So please ignore the date at the bottom. I didn't set the dash cam right. This is in June of 2018. And so let's take a little ride along a short section of 2+1 road here. This is an intersection, as you can see, and the intersection is at grade, and you'll notice this semi-rigid steel barrier here. Okay, let me just get it started. There we go. Okay, there we go. So you can see on the right, there's a rumble strip on the right-hand side, rumble strip on the barrier side. You'll notice that so to speak, for that farm to get on and off the highway. So it can really reduce the disturbances, I guess, for people along the road. Here's a winter shot. I'll just go along and show you that. This is a turnaround. They also have lots of parking areas on the right. That's an issue in Northern Ontario. Those parking areas are in every single lane section of a 2+1 highway. So if a transport needs to pull off, they just pull off. You see those all the time on Swedish roads, and I think we need more of those. And I know trucking industry has been calling for more of those as well. So you've got the semi-rigid steel barrier. You see the 2 signs indicating we're coming into a 2-lane section. And when you look at that picture, you say, well, that's Northern Ontario, right? And certainly when I was driving up towards the Arctic Circle, it was, I felt like it was in Northern Ontario a lot. And it felt much safer being on the 2+1 sections than on the non-2+1 sections. And here's the last little clip. Sorry, the volume here. So here they're using TMAs. They're doing some surveying. This gives you a little bit of an idea after some significant snowfall. The day before I had driven up and it was snowing quite a bit. And this was the day after when I was with the officials from the road authority in Sweden. And there you go, center barrier, median barrier. See the rock cuts just like Northern Ontario. And plowing operations are the same. They pull the snow from the center, move it to the right, just like we do. And they use those kind of things. So that is it, Mac. That's my presentation. Do you want me to stop sharing and give it back to you? Okay. You there, Mac? Okay, I'm going to stop share here.
Yeah, I just took it away from you.
There. Okay,
Sorry about that.
Good. Okay, excellent.
So, Mark, I'm really personally, I'm really looking forward to this. Somebody that drives as much as I do in Northern Ontario, it'll be great to get between communities before the ice melts in my cooler. So, thank you. I can't wait for this to happen. Are there any before we sign off? We're just at the end of our time, but we probably, if there's a question, anyone has of Mark?
Can I? Can I just?
Can I ask?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a question. I'm in Northwestern Ontario.
Yeah.
I actually live on Highway 1117. So
Okay.
we have this alternating 2-lane, 1-lane, no barrier or anything, obviously.
Right.
But we had a few years ago, we had gone to Roma, I guess it was 2019, and we had a resident from the city of Thunder Bay that had been asking about this, like the barriers down the middle of the highway, because his son had been involved in a fatal collision. It was a one-vehicle collision, but he lost control on the ice and went flying across the highway, and it was not nice. Have you spoken with anybody in Northwestern Ontario in the Thunder Bay region or anything about these kinds of divided highways? Or...
Yes. So I presented at the FONOM, at the NOMA conference a number of years ago on this, and we were still in our advocating stage at that point. We had not received any indication that there would be a pilot. So yeah, we have been having some discussions through NOMA on this, and looking at what you see here, you can see how that certainly would apply right across Northern Ontario, and particularly with some of the difficulty in building the twinned highways and the amount of time and cost that takes. That 2+1 are really a great option. And you make an excellent point that not only do these stop head-on crashes, but they stop what we call run off the road left crashes. Which is the one that you were talking about.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone thanks Mark, and thanks everyone for joining us now. We appreciate
Mac,
yeah.
Sorry, Mac. Just one last quick point.
Okay.
We are expecting an announcement on the final site of the two that have been chosen soon, although there have been other things going on, so there have been some delays associated with that, but we are expecting that at some point in the near future.
Probably had something to do with things that were happening in Ottawa that were tying up the transportation people. So again, thanks very much, Mark, very much for your presentation. We look forward to those dates and those locations being announced shortly, and I'm anticipating a favorable review from the government, hopefully, and the fact that I look forward to this being across the north and to save some lives. Thanks very much. So